everybody. Welcome to Shields Live today, Wednesday. What are we? March 23rd. Just kind of a crummy day today here in Iowa. I know we have viewers from all over. So what better way to spend it than with us? So you can maybe learn something today. Jan's going to teach us about some of the settings in the machines. I think that's kind of one of those things that not everybody knows about. And it's really important to know that you can change some of the settings so that you can, use your machine to its fullest capacity. And again, thanks for everybody that joined us for our Dime event. We had a really, really good event. Learned a lot of different things.
Another one in May.
And we have another one coming up in May. So we will keep you posted there. Anyway, just want to say, hey, hope it's better weather where you are. I know we do kind of need the rain. It is Iowa, so we're kind of used to it. But I will pass it over to Jan. Stay tuned. I'm going to have a couple more things to say at the very end. Maybe have some different promotions going on, and then maybe try to do a giveaway for next week. So I will turn it over. Again, great to see everybody. Thanks for joining us. And here's Jan.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi, everybody. All right. So just a second here. I'm going to turn off our little banner. How is everybody today? Hide the banner. Get the comments up here. Hello. Hello. Oh, here's Lynn. Got people coming in. So we're going to talk about the settings page today. And most of the machines have some. Oh, yes. Tim likes promos. He'll come up with something good, I'm sure. Hello. So we're going to talk about the settings page a little bit. Most of the machines have a settings page, most of the electronic, computerized machines, the embroidery machines. And I talked about this with Dream Club some years ago, and I find it very useful. I get a lot of questions about the settings in this area. And so we're just going to talk about it. I am going to use one of the smaller machines today, so you can kind of see, and it's both a sewing and an embroidery machine. So the ones that are sewing and embroidery combos have more settings than just a sewing machine only or just an embroidery machine. But this one's kind of both. So I thought we'd try that one. And then I also have a sewing machine here. And a lot of the nicer sewing machines, the kind of like the middle ones and higher end ones have a settings page as well. So I have one of the sewing machines over here, and there you enter the settings and get to the settings a little differently. So I'll show you both of them. So if you have one of those machines, it will help you. But I just wanted you to know a little bit more about this area and things that you should and maybe shouldn't turn on or off, that kind of thing, so that you understand what they're for and what kind of things it could cause you to have. So, okay. So anyway, so let's go ahead. I'm going to switch the camera over here so I can get into so you can see the other machine here. Just a second. And switch my microphone. Okay. So here is my main screen. Now this is a smaller machine. This is the NQ3700D. So it's the kind of, we talked a few weeks ago about the NQ1700E, which is an embroidery only machine. This is the combination machine that is just like that one for the embroidery, but then it also has sewing in it. So I thought this would be a good machine to look at because some of you have the 1700E embroidery only. And then this one will also have some of the sewing settings that we need to talk about. So I thought we would use this one. And it also is wireless. So a lot of the machines now have some wireless setup pages also now. So you know where these are. And then your machine often will tell you if there's an update, or it will even begin the downloading procedure for updates. So it's real important to have that on if your machine has that ability. So, okay, so let's talk about the settings page and how to get to it. Most of the machines, now this one's a little smaller, as you can see, so I'm going to have to pull the camera down just a little bit so you can see the bottom. But to get into your settings pages, you're going to hit this little button with it looks like a piece of paper with the corner turned down. Okay, so it's going to be in a variety of places on your machines. Sometimes it's like along the bottom of your screen, sometimes right along the top of your screen, but they all look the same. They look like a piece of paper with the corner turned down. So this particular one is way down here towards the bottom on the like the body of the machine, not on the screen. So I'm just going to touch that to get into the settings pages, and then the rest of it will be up here. So I'm going to go ahead and touch that so that we can enter the settings area. Okay. Now, since this is an embroidery machine, usually if you've got the embroidery unit on the machine anyway, I do on this one, generally you will come up to the pages with the embroidery information on it. So like the first page that comes up here says the embroidery frame display. So this machine's a fairly small one, so you don't have as many options of the different sizes of frames. But I like to have up. Normally, I use the largest one. Sometimes I need to use one of the smaller ones for a particular reason. But you can see it changes here on my screen what size hoop is up here. Now, this particular machine, just so you know, it actually, when you tell it that you're going to use a 5x7 hoop, or you put the 5x7 hoop display on it. Not all of the machines are like this, but this particular one is. It will only allow you then to bring in a design that's 5x7 or smaller. So most of the machines don't do that, but this particular one does, and some of the older ones did. So be careful what you have chosen here, that you are not trying to bring in then a 6x10 design, because it's going to say it's too big when you know it's not. But if this frame is chosen, it might be. Okay, so I'm just going to put mine back to the 6x10, which is the largest for this particular machine. Okay, I usually leave mine there just because I find that the most useful. Then the other thing that's here that's kind of cool is it allows me to show different information on the screen when it's embroidering. So like this one's just plain. If I hit this button again, it'll put the center of my hoop up here. So that's nice. Sometimes you need to know kind of where the center of your hoop is. And so that just gives me those two lines. Then if you hit it again, look, it'll actually put the grid marks up. And the other thing that's cool about this is these grid marks match up with the plastic grids that come with the hoops. So then if you need to do some centering and stuff, you can count the grid lines. Now, like this machine does not have like a camera on it or anything. So I often use this grid and the plastic grid that comes with the hoop to help me center things. Okay, so that's something else you can do. If I hit it one more time, it's just going to go back to the plain screen, and then otherwise this shows the center mark. Okay, so it just depends on which one you want. I often just leave it plain, but sometimes I put the grid up if I need to be able to center things. So that's something that's normally on one of the very first pages of the settings screen, and I find that very useful. Okay, now this particular machine, as you can see right here, has a little arrow. The other machines will have the arrows at the bottom of the screen. This one is down on the body of the machine to go to the next page. So see right here, it says I'm on page 5 of 14. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that button again. And this page on this machine then allows me to change my thread colors, or how the colors come up on the designs. So like the top one, right now it's set to number 1, 2, 3. That means that it will come up with a color number. You know, I can change this to name of color. And if it comes up with name of color, that means that it would be the name of the brother color number names. So those are just the names of the 60 original brother colors. Okay, so I normally leave mine at number 1, 2, 3. I kind of like the color numbers because I learned my colors from that. Then you can also choose a thread chart. So embroidery is the one I generally leave mine on. You can also then choose, like if you have Madeira Poly is another one I use quite a lot because I have a lot of those colors. Madeira Rayon. Now, many of the bigger machines have more thread charts. So the thing that's cool about this, when you change your thread charts in here, is I like the Luminaires now have like kind of a new system that they have a lot of thread charts in there. But the trick is to make sure you change your thread chart to say Floriani or Polyneon, the Madeira Polyneon, before you bring your design in, so that the machine knows what it's looking at. So just be aware of that with some of the newer machines, especially. Choose your thread chart before you bring your design in. Okay, like the 10 needle is like that now, and the new 6 needle. So just bring the chart up and choose it before you bring your design in. So then everything will come up better. Okay. The other thing that's very important with these embroidery machines is this max embroidery speed. No, the little slider over here does not change the embroidery speed. This is for the sewing speed, but not the embroidery speed. The embroidery speed is set up in the settings page. So the max embroidery speed on this particular machine is 850. I can go down to 700, 600, 500, 400, 350. That's as low as I can go. Okay. Some of the machines go about 1,050 stitches a minute. I usually run this one kind of at 850, 700, something like that. Okay. So that's something else that you might be interested in knowing to change, just because I do change that quite often. The embroidery tension, honestly, where it's set, leave it alone. I usually tell people don't mess with embroidery tension, leave it alone. Normally they're set, most of them are set at 00, not all, but this one is set at 00 as default. You can see that the black box is around the number, so that means that is default. Okay, so I would leave that one alone. I normally do not mess with that one. This machine has a cool new feature, and this is on the Dream machines if they've been upgraded, and on Luminaires too. This Embroidery Foot Auto Down. If you turn that on, it's awesome, because what it does then when you're embroidering and you have your design all set up in there, it will allow you to press the go button without having to lower the foot first and then hit the go button. So I love that little feature, because that's one of the new ones that they put in this machine. So I turn that on my machine so that I can do that. The Dream machines that have been updated have that, and the Luminaires have that also. The Solarises have that, but this one now has that as well. So it's really cool, and you just have to turn it on. Okay, so that's Embroidery Foot Auto Down. So in other words, once you got everything set in there ready to embroider, you do not have to put the foot down first and then hit embroidery. You can do that. Yep. It is on the Destiny if you have the second upgrade, Cindy. I believe that was in the second upgrade. So you do have to have the upgrade on your machine, the second upgrade. The Dream machine, yes. Yes. If you had the second upgrade to that machine, it had that. And you just have to go in and turn it on. I really like that. Okay. The embroidery foot height. There are times when I have to change that. I don't change it very often, but occasionally when I'm doing some sort of applique that has maybe heavy fabrics in it, or like thicker items, I'll bring this up maybe one bump. Do not go up too far, because it will cause you to have thread shredding, because if the foot's too high, it will shred the thread. So I don't move it off of the default, which is at 1.5 millimeters, very often. The black box again is around there. That means that's default. So if you're not sure, like if it's up here and you're having it's shredding your thread, and you think, oh, that black box isn't there anymore, where should it be? Keep hitting it until the black box comes back. Okay, that helps you get back to the default settings. So I normally leave mine there. Every now and then I'll move it up to 2, but that's usually about as far up as I ever go. Okay, so that's a very important one to remember, not to get too high. Okay, the next setting here is also an embroidery thing. It allows you to change the color of like your little icons and of the main screen of your machine. I like mine white, so you can change the different colors. If you hit select, see, it gives you all these different colors. I don't usually change mine because I like white. It makes the picture of the design more vivid to me, so I like the white. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Look at some of these other ones. Oh, this is what I use all the time. Thumbnail. There's small and large thumbnails. So go in. Most of the embroidery machines have this. This is for the embroidery machines. But if you don't have it on small thumbnails, that's why the pictures are so small of the designs. You can at least get them a little bigger by doing that. Okay. The other thing is the little ruler. If you want to be in millimeters or in inches, I like to be in inches most of the time, but I do change back and forth sometimes, and it's in the settings. Okay. So these are a lot of embroidery things right now. We're going to get to the sewing things here in a minute. Okay. All right. So, I think we're kind of in the general and starting into the sewing stuff on this particular machine. This is on a lot of the machines, this needle position up, down. This is a sewing feature. And what I like to do, I like to stop with my needle in the down position. So I like to stop with it down instead of up. Okay. You can also have it stop up if you'd like. Sometimes it stops up in the embroidery. It usually stops up because it cuts after the embroidery stops, but this is for the sewing. So I like this needle position up, down. I like it to stop when I'm sewing with the needle down. Okay. The buzzer is whether the machine makes noise when you hit a button. Now, my fingers don't work too well on the screen, so I usually have that turned on so that I can tell if I made the selection or not. Okay. Because you can hear the little, if I turn that off, see now there's no beeping. So I like to leave it on because then I know that I made the selection I'm looking for. Opening screen. Now this is something, if you don't want to have to touch your screen when you open up your computer or turn on your machine for the first time, if you don't want to have to touch the screen, turn this off. Like in the store, we always have them turned on so it does the little scrolling thing, for the pictures and stuff. But if you I turn mine off once I take it home because I don't want to have to touch the screen so many times to get it started. So you can go in and there'll be a little thing that says opening screen, just turn it off. Okay. Oh, you like my little purple bucket? This is my little thread bucket. You like that, Cindy? Yeah, I made a bunch of these for my tables when I have classes. So this one's any day spent sewing is a good day. So I have that for my threads instead of on the floor. Okay, so then it will also allow you to choose the language you'd like to speak for the day. I usually speak English. So, if you want to speak a different language, you can do that. Here, they give you several different options. So I like English. So we're going to go to the next page. And normally the machines will allow you to turn the light that's inside here. You can see my hand inside here, turn it on or off. So if I turn it off, I can turn it on. Some of the machines will also allow you, they'll dim it. There's like different settings. So there's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's kind of nice. So then you have an idea, you can do different levels. I do that at home on my Luminaire when I'm teaching so that the light's not so bright inside the machine. So I turn it down a little bit. But this one is just on or off, okay, on this one. Input sensitivity is something I have to change sometime on my machine because my fingers don't work very well on touch screens. So if you hit the start button, it'll walk you through doing the, right now it's at 3. And I think that's good. I think for me, it's good. So my 3 is usually good for me, but you can change the setting with this button here, the big buttons. 3 is the default because the black box is around it. And then you go back to get out of it with the back button over here. Okay. So that's something you might need to adjust if your fingers don't work or they work too well. Sometimes you need to turn it down if they work too well on the screen. Okay. So let's see what else we got. Oh, well, this one's kind of a neat place. So this one tells you on the Brothers, it tells you both the service count and the total count of stitches on your machine. And this is the embroidery stitches. So if you have a baby lock, it just has the service count. It doesn't have the second one. It just depends on the brand. So the Brothers have both and the baby locks just have the service count. Okay. And then this is the serial number. Like it's sort of like the internal serial number of your machine. That's here. And then this is the version of your software. So sometimes your machines need to be upgraded or updated. And then this would be where you would check to see where the version is. Okay, so this is like page 11 in this machine. I'm going to go to another page. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, we talked a little bit about the 1700, the NQ1700, and how it's wireless. This machine is also wireless. And so you're going to have a couple of pages of wireless settings to get it set up on your, like your router at home. And you can actually rename the machines in some cases. And, but also the machines will either check, the wireless machines will check if you are need an upgrade or an update. It'll check the website to see if you need an update. Or in my case, like my Luminaire will actually kind of download it for me automatically. This one doesn't, but at least checks for you, which is really nice. So I have the wireless LAN enable. You want to make sure that's turned on then. I turned it on. Okay. And then right underneath there, we've all had like printers and phones and different things that we put on our routers at home. There's a little wireless LAN setup wizard. So if I touch that, it'll look for the wireless, the wireless routers in the area, and then you can set it up with your passwords and everything. And it takes a little bit. I'm kind of in the back room, so I'm a little bit ways from it. So it gives me the ones that are available, and I choose the one that I want. It'll ask me to type in my password. So that's how you get it on. You need to get it onto your router, onto the internet. Once you've turned on the wireless LAN, then you need to get connected to a wireless router. Okay, so I'm going to hit the back button. And let's see, the status button just shows if you're connected or not. Okay, so let's go to the next page. There's going to be another page that's going to have some stuff about the wireless feature. Now, this is what I like really well, because I can actually name my machine. So what I do here in the store, since we have multiple machines, they just come up as saying sewing machine. And what I like to do is I like to name my machine the name of what it is. Then I know which one I'm sending a design to with my software, because we talked a little bit about that also with the NQ1700. We talked about design database transfer. So if you have more questions about that, go back a few weeks and watch the video, because we actually talked about it. And I've done a couple of other videos on Sew Along with Jan about it, because it's really fun to send your designs wirelessly. So in this case, what I did is then I came up saying sewing machine, and then I had a couple of numbers or something, and I hit change, and then see, I could change what I named this. So right now it's what I want it to be. I could back up and tell it a different name. So I just named this one NQ3700D, so I knew what it was. Okay, and you can name it whatever you want. All right, let's go to another one. Let's see. So that is most of the wireless stuff. So a lot of the newer machines have these 2 or 3 wireless pages. The next page here then says check for updates. The latest version available is 1.03, because we saw back a couple pages that we were at 1.03. So we know that. But if I hit the check button, it'll wait. It just tells you to wait, and it'll check for the updates, and it says the new update is already installed. So we have that. Okay. If I'll show you someplace on the front of the machine here in a second when we go out there. There is it'll give you a little icon also when it's checked, and it knows you have a new update, and it'll tell you, but you still have to manually update this one with a USB stick. It doesn't download it directly to the machine. The Luminaires and Solarises do that though, so that's very handy. Actually, I don't think the 10 needle does that yet though. I know the Luminaire and Solaris does. I have to go look at the 10 needle, because I think they might have changed it. So most of the newer machines, the bigger ones, have that ability that it actually downloads it, which is cool. So, all right. So I'm going to go to the next page. That's the wireless. There's about 3 pages of wireless stuff. So a lot of the machines have that now. And if I go to the next page, this is a setting that I want everybody to really be aware of. This one causes people a lot of problems. So people will tell me, they'll call me up and they'll say, my needle won't stay in the right place. And it's not in the center anymore. Okay. Well, what they've done by accident, this little button that says width control right here needs to be off. Don't turn it on normally. What happens then if you turn this on, if I look over here, now the only way your needle is now run by this. So you can you see my needle moving? It may not do it since I've got the embroidery unit on. Second, let me see if I can pull this off for a second. You can be able to see it. Because if I have that turned on, I think it's because the embroidery unit's on. This one you can't sew with the embroidery unit on it, so we'll go back and rev it up here again without the embroidery unit on for a minute. Oh, there it is. Okay, here's the width control. So if I have that turned on right now, when I go over here, can you see my needle going back and forth? And I'm using the slider to do that. That's not a normal activity that I normally do. There are some specialty things that I would use that for, but if your needle's doing that and you're like, oh, it won't stay in the center, go in there and to your settings and turn off that width control. So see now, see, it won't do that anymore. Okay, so that's an important one. If everybody remembers one thing today, remember, keep your width control turned off normally. Okay, that's one that a lot of people ask me about. Okay, so another thing that's on this page, we're in the sewing stuff now. So one of the other, this thing is the fine adjustment vertical and horizontal. These are for the decorative stitches. Okay, and then the twin needle function is something that if you're going to use a twin needle for a stitch, and I do that occasionally, most of the machines have a place where you turn that on. So the machine knows you are using a twin needle, and then there's some stitches that are not available when you use a twin needle. You know, not all stitches are available for twin needle work. Okay, so you turn, I leave that off, but I turn it on when I'm using my twin needle. Okay, so that's what that's for. Let's see, the presser foot height. That's how high your presser foot goes up and down. Okay, and like when you stop, how high it goes, you can adjust that. This is the default. Got the black box, see. And then when you're using like the pivot feature, there's a lot of these have a pivot feature on the sewing part. That is also then how high it raises at the end. So that's the height of the presser foot. And then this is the presser foot pressure. Number 3 is the norm, kind of a norm there for that. And if you need it to not push down so hard, maybe put it on 2. Or if you needed to press down a little harder, you could put it on 4. So that's the normal is 3. Okay, so that's what that button is. Some of the older machines had a little dial up on the top of the machine that did that manually, but this one has it automatic. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then the initial position. Now, this is another one that I use a lot. I use a piecing foot very often and other feet that have a center needle position. I don't want to break my needle or my foot, so I change the initial position from left. Okay, so when they come out of the box, they're going to be over here, over here on the left, like this. Okay, I like to put it to the center, and that means every time I turn on my machine, my needle automatically comes up in the center needle position, and that's really important for me to have that. So I'm going to slip this embroidery unit back on, and I'll flip it back on again. But that's very important for me because I use that center needle position a lot. So now it's going to gyrate because I turned on the embroidery unit again. So just a second, we'll go back to that page. It was towards the end. Let's see. To go forward a few pages. So we've been doing well. This is kind of the most of the settings now. Like the Luminaire has a few more pages than this one, but this one has a lot of those same settings. The other one, let's see. So we did the initial position. So there it is in the center again. So it always will come up with the needle in the center. You don't find the needle position. Which Nancy, which machine do you have? Oh, you have the Altair. It's going to say initial position, but I'm not sure what page it is on your machine. It's going to say initial position just like this. I just don't know what page it is on your machine. I don't have that machine, the Altair. Yeah, so it's going to be with the sewing stuff. I just don't remember which page it's on that particular machine, but it's still going to say initial position on it. Okay, so let's go look at the next one. Oh, so pivoting. Remember I told you about the pivot feature, and we're going to talk about some of these things on a sewing machine one of these days too. The pivot feature and the automatic height adjustment is something we'll talk about because that's something I find very useful. The pivot feature is, this is how high the pivot goes up. When the pivot feature, what it does, was it on yet? It might be on about page 2 or 3, Lynn. Hers is similar. So yeah. But the pivot feature, what it does is that when you let off the gas, when you step up off your foot controller, it'll raise your foot up so that you can put something else down underneath of it. And then when you step down on the foot controller, it'll put the foot back down again. So it's really awesome feature if you piece a lot. Okay. Nancy, I will look when I get done here, and then I could text you. Okay, I don't have that machine in front of me, but it is there. It's called initial position. So the pivot then is at 3.2. Remember the foot height, it said how high it was 7. So this is about half. The pivot height is about half of the normal all the way up foot. Okay, so that's what that is. Free motion quilting is, you know, when you set it up so that you're moving your fabric underneath the needle, the free motion foot height norm is 1. So it's fairly low. You can also adjust that. Now, I normally do have to adjust that a little bit when I'm free motioning, okay, depending on how thick my quilt is underneath there, okay? Automatic fabric sensor system. This is something that is your automatic height adjustment. In other words, how high your presser foot is. So this is a really important one to have turned on at all times. It's very rare that I turn this off. So it'll say automatic fabric sensor system. Make sure you turn it on. They come out of the box turned off. So if you've never turned yours on, make sure it's turned on. Okay, because that will really help you with sewing. You won't get the little eating problem down into the needle plate, and everything will go up over the bumps much better. So that's very important that that's turned on. Okay, there's a couple of reasons I've turned it off, but I normally leave it on. Okay, now this reinforcement priority is something that's on a lot of the sewing machines, and I found out a reason. It's kind of weird. What it does is anytime you try to go backwards with the backwards button, it will actually just tie a knot in place. And I had somebody call me one day saying that she could not make her machine physically go backwards when she was trying to do a tacking stitch. And it was because this reinforcement priority was turned on. So I usually leave mine off. I use that tacking ability because a lot of the machines now, as many of you know, have the 2 buttons. This one just ties a knot in place, and this one reverses. But this will make everything just tie a knot. So if you don't want that, leave that turned off. Okay, that's one of the things that I learned about that button. So we learned that by trial and error one day over the phone. Okay, now this little area here, this was in the upgraded Destinies and Dream machines as well as the Luminaires, and then now this machine has it, and I think my newer 5200 has this, and I think the Stellaires, Altairs have it as well. But the automatic presser foot lift, there's an auto down, there's an auto up, and there's a press to trim. And what that means is the auto down will automatically make the foot go down with the foot controller when you turn on the pivot. The auto up I don't like, because if I lift my foot, sometimes I have trouble with things, so I don't always turn that on. But I love the press to trim, because what that means, if you turn that on, you do not have to put your foot down first to hit the cutter. You can just hit the cutter. Okay, so if you have that on your machine, and a lot of the bigger machines have that now, including this one, okay, you don't have to put the foot down first and then hit the cutter to make it work. You just have to hit the cutting button, and it'll put the foot down automatically. So that's something that's kind of cool. So you can see I have my auto down on and my press to trim on, but I don't have the auto up on. So, and maybe you want the other one on too, but it doesn't work as well for me. So I usually leave that one off. Okay, so that's some more of the new little things. And those were all added to this machine when it was upgraded this last fall. So I thought it was cool. They put some of these on this nice little machine. And then we're back to the main screen where we started. So this is the one that has the embroidery frame stuff. So that's kind of the gist of most of the settings on the sewing embroidery combos. You know, not all of them are like that, but that's very similar to even the bigger machines. There's a few extra settings in the bigger ones, but that's most of them. Okay. So if you didn't remember anything else, remember you can change your size of your hoops here. Okay. This one is where you change your color charts. Okay. How fast your embroidery machine runs. Okay. This is where it is. It's not the slider. Okay. Leave your embroidery tension alone. I love this Embroidery Foot Auto Down because then I can just hit the go button and it puts the foot down, so I don't have to do the foot down and then the go button. And then my other favorite thing is the needle position up down. So I want the needle to stop in the down position while sewing, not embroidery, but sewing. Okay. And the other two settings that I always change right away is, you know, here's the wireless LAN. So that's always nice to get that all set up so it's on the internet. But I really like the, I always want to tell people, remember, width control is off. Okay, width control is off. And initial position of the needle, I like it to start in the center. And my other favorite one is automatic fabric sensor system should be on. Okay. So that's, I always go in and I set all these up like when I get them out of the box so that that the floor models have all those little settings already done. I like to do that for people. Just helps. It's a little easier. Sometimes when you take them home and you have all those little settings that are not set up, then it's hard to know what to do. So this is an embroidery sewing combo, and that's some of the settings. So did that help you a little bit to understand why you would want to change some of those things in the machine? Does that help a little bit to know why you would want to do that? Oh, you found it. Good. I can't remember what page it is on that machine, Nancy. I'm sorry. So yeah, cool. So does that help you? Because the settings page is, I mean, a lot of people, there's a few things in there like the width control and that reinforcement button, leave it off. Okay. Those are a couple things that I don't mess with. And I also don't mess with my embroidery tension. I leave it alone. Okay. That's something else. I leave it a be. Okay. So there are some things in here you may not want to turn on. Okay. But I want to show you too on one of the sewing machines here. The sewing machine, some of them have a settings button as well, but it's a little bit different to get into because there's no screen like this. So give me a second and I'm going to push this one back and I'm going to pull this sewing machine over here. Just pull this embroidery unit off. It's easier. But I brought one of the sewing machines. So if you have one of these sewing machines, it's like this. This one also has a settings page, and there's a couple of extra things on here that's kind of neat. The auto, oh, it doesn't have that auto foot down. I swear they put that on there. Yeah, maybe I'll have, we can talk later, Lynn, and maybe I can find it. I thought they had that on there because I didn't think it was just on the Luminaire, but maybe it was on the Luminaire first update. So I might have been wrong. It might have just been on the Luminaire first update they put that on. Because I love that button. Because then I don't have to, I can just hit the go button. Okay, so this is one of the sewing machines. Okay, so it must have been on the first Luminaire update then, not on the Dream Machine. So the Dream Machines must not have it then. Dream Machines and Destinies. because I thought it was in the second upgrade, but it must have been in the first one in the Luminaire. So yeah, just the Luminaires then that have it. And then this new one now has it. So it's cool. And it's possible. I'll go look on the Altair Stellaire. They might have it. They might have it too, but I'd have to go look. I didn't bring that machine back. So, because that is a really cool function. But yeah, if that's true, I think it did come out in the Luminaire first upgrade instead of the Dream Machine's second one. Okay. So this machine is one of the sewing machines. This is the BQ950. And this one also has a settings page that are very similar to the ones we just looked at. But you have to access these a little differently because they don't have the touch screen. They have buttons instead. So to access these, there's still the same little icon that has the page turned down, like that. And then it comes up in like little bars like this. Sorry, I'm getting one of those dumb calls.
The auto is on the Stellaire.
It is on the Stellaire. Oh, cool. So Tim said that the Stellaire Altair, the Stellaires and the Altair will have that auto down on it. So those machines have it, but the Dream Machine evidently didn't. The upgrade for the Luminaire. Oh, how many upgrades for the Luminaire? There have been 2, Jan. I can't remember if you have a Luminaire or XP1 or an XP2. So there have been 2 upgrades. And if you have an XP2, you already have them. But if you have an XP1, you have to get the upgrades. I can't remember which one you have. Oh, did you find it? Yep, so that one has it. So yeah, so the new version of the Dream Machine has it, but the Dream Machine's Destiny's didn't. It must have been in that first Luminaire upgrade then that they had that. So that's pretty cool. That's one of my favorite buttons now. Okay, so this one, I touched the same button. It's right here that looks like a piece of paper with the corner turned down. And it takes me back into this little settings pages, okay? And there are different pages. And if you just keep hitting that page, it'll take you through them. You just keep hitting the little button with the corner turned down, it'll just keep going. Okay. These settings are very similar to the ones we've already gone through. Okay. So like here's the needle position. You can have it stop in the down position or in the up position. But to change these are a little different. So if you have a machine like this, you have to hit the arrow and make the line that you're wanting to change black. So you do the down arrow. See, it's black now. So now I'm on this line. And then to change the setting over here, I have to use the side-to-side arrows. So this one right now is set for the needle to stop in the down position. That's the way I like it. Okay. And if I want to go to the twin needle, see, then I push the down button and that line's black. And I want that to stay off. Okay. Hit it down again. Now there's that width control. Remember, width control is off. So we want that to stay off. Here's that initial position. I use that all the time. Again, this one I can adjust it to the center. So you use these buttons to adjust, the side-to-side ones. So adjust it to the left or to the center. I like the center. Okay. Now this machine has a really cool little foot controller that you can get for it that has a heel kick, what they call a heel kick. And it gives you several options for that heel kick. So it drives it on the front of the foot controller. But when you rock your heel back, then it will give you some options. So like one of the options is for the needle to go up and down. That's what it's selected at. And then you could just take a stitch. That means it's going to take a stitch, or it's going to reverse, or it's going to cut. So then that's what that means, is that you can adjust those 4 options with that heel kick on this machine. So that's what that little thing is. It's kind of cool. And it will show up there once you have plugged in the foot controller. So it wasn't there yesterday when I got this machine ready to bring back. And I thought, oh, I got to plug in the foot controller. So I plugged the foot controller in, and now it lets me set up the different options. Okay. So again, down arrow to get to the next one. You turn it black. Okay, these are all sewing settings, like elongation is for the decorative stitches. Thread density is for the decorative stitches. Here's the character spacing for your built-in letters. Okay, these are not ones that I use as often. The size of the selection is a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. It's sort of like the embroidery machine one we just did, you know, the size of the icon. Have these, so those same settings, that fine adjustment for the vertical and horizontal, those are for the decorative stitches. And then the presser foot pressure is at 3 on this one also. This one does not have that automatic height adjustment on it. This machine does not have that, so I don't have that option on this machine. But I can turn on and off the beeper, the buzzer. I can change the lights on and off like that. I can change the brightness of the screen. That's what this one is. So I can make it brighter or darker. Okay. I think I've got it turned off now, so we're going to turn it. Oops, second here. There we go. Sorry, there we go. And then I'm going to go down to the next one. And then there's that reinforcement priority. And this is the one, this is the machine the gal had that had the question. And so this is how we figured out that we want to leave this off most of the time, probably. So we have options for our going backwards or tying a knot in place. And then the input sensitivity, we talked about that before, and you can set it at different sets. My fingers don't work very well on here either, so I often do turn my sensitivity up to 4. I do go down to that one and make the line black, and then I go up to 4. So that really helps me a lot. And then again, you can speak a different language if you'd like on this machine. And then it tells you the version. So this one, these machines also have settings. And you just, the same way you get into them, all the machines all have the same icon. It looks like a little piece of paper with the corner turned down. Okay. So are there any questions about that? Does that help everybody kind of understand some of those settings? Is there one that you need me to go over again? Did the upgrade? We'll have to check for the, okay. Thanks, Jan. Yeah. I think you might have the first one, but you might need the second one. And then you'd have a few extra things because they did some couple really nice things in the second upgrade too. So yeah, I think you might have had the first upgrade in your machine. Okay. All right. So there's a couple different options. This was just the sewing machine with the settings, and we did one with the embroidery. So I think Tim's going to come back and say something. Have you got promotions?
I don't know. I got something. I'll come
Tim will have something to talk about here. Just a second. Let me get the camera back for you. Turn the camera back up. Oops. Get my mouse to work. Okay. Get that out of your way so you can see yourself. There you go.
Hello, everybody. I'm back. Again, thanks for joining us on our Wednesday live. Again, promotions. Brother has a lot of promotions going on right now. Again, we'll have the link to the gift guide. But I did want to mention a couple things. I do have a few other machines around. I have a wonderful Solaris. Actually, it's brand new. It's on the floor. But I got it with a wonderful bundle, about $3,000 worth of stuff that I'm willing to throw in with it. So we do have that going on right now. For the Quad City and Iowa City customers, I have brought a lot of the old Anita Good designs down to the Davenport store. So pop in and check them out. This is kind of the last chance. We're going to, once we're, I'm going to give it one more shot at Davenport, and then we're going to probably just start selling them on eBay and whatnot. But we got them down like $5, $10. So well below our cost. So come check them out. And then, so just keep an eye out and everything. Also right now with Brother, they do have a 20% off on all of their accessories going on, which is a really good deal.
Part of the guide,
it's actually part of the guide, which is a really great deal because that does include the thread sets. So when you're looking at $400 or $500, $100 off is a pretty good deal. So definitely check it out if there's anything you need as far as the different accessories. And again, we're going to try something that we did the first week. If you like, share, and what's the other thing? Like,
share, and comment.
And comment on this particular post. We're going to put you in it for a drawing. We're going to have another freebie next week. I haven't figured out what it is, but we got a lot of different stuff laying around. So please do that. Come back next week. We really appreciate everything you guys do for us. And yeah, so I will let you go, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
So next week we're going to do some scan and cut. We're going to do cutting. I'm going to cut fabric with the scan and cut using a PES file. So I wanted to show you a couple different ways to use a PES file and get the and use that PES file to also cut in their scan and cut. So I think it'll be a fun little procedure to do and something new. So okay,
Sounds great.
All righty, thank you.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye.